Hey y'all, now that I had to wait about 25 minutes for them to stop leaf blowing outside, I can film my video. I get it, it's fall, they have to do it, they don't have a choice, but it's fucking annoying. I have to burp really bad. Or I guess I have to hiccup. So as you guys know, I make Let's Not Meet videos where I read like scary stalker stories. I made one specifically about Tinder dates, and then I also made one specifically about babysitting stories. And I asked you guys if there were any other categories that you wanted me to like look into, I guess. I don't really know what else to call it besides categories. I got a fuck ton of suggestions, so thank you guys for that. And one of the ones that I wanted to jump into immediately was Uber stories. I travel quite a bit, or I traveled more so in the past than I do now. So I've taken a lot of Ubers in my days. And I don't really have that many scary stories from them, more so like really inconvenient or uncomfortable stories, I guess. But I wanted to read scary Uber stories, so I went through Let's Not Meet on Reddit and I found a couple stories. I'll have all of them linked down below so you guys can go check them out if you want. But we're gonna read some scary Uber stories because, like I said in the last video, I love traumatizing myself. I love making myself even more paranoid than I already am. Also wanted to say really quickly, this will be like 2 seconds of the video, I promise. It is actually the day after my depression video day, and I know that that's probably very hard to believe. I was so behind this week. I couldn't get videos done because I was in such a funk, and it's like I feel like a new person today. I feel like that's really important to remember about mental health. It's like there are some times where that shit can last you weeks or months, and then there are some times where it's just like a fucking light switch. Mental health is not black and white, it's not simple, it's not easy, it's confusing and it's hard to understand. And I think the more that we start to accept that, the easier it'll be for people to come out and say how they're feeling, not be scared to tell people that they're having a rough day or they're having a rough week. So I hope that video helped. Hopefully at least some of you. If you guys didn't watch it, I completely understand because it's a completely different type of video, but I just wanted to throw it out there that I'm doing a lot better. I feel a lot better. I haven't even uploaded that video yet. Today is Thursday? Yeah, yesterday was Wednesday. That was my really bad day. So I haven't even uploaded it, but I tweeted today and I'm 100% uploading it, or I already did. It's weird talking like my future self, but I hope that it helped you guys, and I'm sure I'm gonna get overwhelming support on that video, and I love you guys so much for that. But let's get into the scary stories. So the first story that I found says, "While never Uber alone again, I was forced to go on a date in a locked car at 2 a.m. I always tell this as a cautionary tale that has actually happened to me, especially in light of all of the terrifying, heartbreaking news stories of girls who have gotten into Ubers and are never seen again. This happened when I was in college. It's one of the bigger party schools, with an entire street of bars that you can wander to and from. My boyfriend, now fiance, had gone back to his hometown for the weekend, so I decided to go out with some friends. I'm sure you can see where this is going. I had a bit too much to drink and was on the edge of a blackout. Knowing with my whole mind, body, and soul that I did not want to become a liability for my friends for the rest of the night, I told them I was going to Uber home. My friends insisted on coming home with me, but selfishly, I wanted to call my boyfriend when I got home and had a bed to myself, so I said no. But I took a screenshot of my driver's name and info on the app and sent it to them. When he got close, I hugged them all and walked out of the door. Like I said earlier, it's a big party school with lots of bars in one area, so the entire strip is lined with Ubers from about 11 p.m. to 3. It was almost time for the bars to close, so there were a ton. And look, I was hammered. I don't even know what a Toyota Yaris looks like at the best of times. I'm so bad with cars. They'll be like, it's a Prius, and I'm like, a what? What's coming to pick us up? So as I'm searching, a man rolled his window down and asked if I was waiting for an Uber. I said yes. He told me he wasn't my Uber, but if I canceled my ride and accepted his, he would take me home. I was already thinking of the leftovers I had in my fridge at this point, so I agreed. I canceled my Uber and I linked my account up with his. He was super nice, and he was an Uber. I've heard stories of fake Uber drivers, so I made sure he was legit. He called me beautiful a few times right off the bat, but hey, I was the girl in college. I get that a lot. I remember we talked about our favorite books. I told him I was an English major, and he was super interested in listening to me talk about tutoring ESL students in my free time on campus. He was an immigrant who had to learn to speak English, so we talked about how awful it is to learn such an intricate language, but how rewarding the successes were in the end. When he missed the turn-in from my apartment complex, I figured it must have been because he was distracted by our conversation. I politely pointed out that he missed the turn-in and he said he would turn around. Rather than making a U-turn though, he took the longest way to get back into my apartment. I was still in familiar territory, so I at least knew he was going in the right direction, but I was starting to get nervous. It was around 2:30 at this time, and it was super dark and no one was awake, let alone outside. When he missed the turn-in again, I asked if I could just get out and make it back on my own. He seemed kind of offended, like he was surprised that I wasn't as engrossed in our conversation as he was. I kind of jokingly told him that I was a broke college student and he was racking up my bill during a surge. That seemed to straighten things out a bit. He turned and was all like, "Oh, I completely understand," and he went back to my complex. I was honestly so freaked out and drunk at this point that as soon as he pulled into my complex, I was like, "Okay, right here is fine, thank you," and pulled on the door handle when he came to a stop. It didn't open. I hit the little lock latch. Still nothing. "Let's go get coffee," he said. He clicked the button in the app to say the trip was completed and clicked out of the app. Okay, I already fucked this story. At this point, I'm just trying not to look as freaked out as I feel. I told him I was tired and it was late and coffee was the last thing I needed at this moment. I tried the door again just to make sure I wasn't drunk and handling the door wrong. It still didn't open. We should just sit here and talk until you're feeling better, he was explaining to me. We can go somewhere more private too if you'd like. Do you live alone up there? Oh my god. At this point, I'm frantically digging through my purse for my phone. Fuck being polite. When he asked what I was doing, I told him I promised my boyfriend I'd call him once I was home safely. Wrong thing to say. He got pissed that I had a boyfriend and didn't tell him about it. He asked what his name was, what he did for a living, and where he was right now at this very second. When I gave him half-hearted answers, he got even angrier. He demanded to know why a boyfriend of mine would be stupid enough to leave his girl alone with another man, him. He repeated it twice. At this point, I'm trying not to cry. How he left her alone with him? You're an Uber driver, like you're just doing your fucking job. What do you mean she left him alone with a man? When I figured my phone must have fallen under the seat, I started digging around down there. He demanded to know what I was doing. I gave my best impression of a genuine laugh and I said I dropped my phone. He told me to stop digging around in his things immediately. I stopped. Mind you, I'm still drunk as hell at this point. I was trying to keep my shit together and not vomit or pass out. I tried the door a third time, still nothing. He asked if I wanted to get coffee again. He even kind of begged a little. I told him no, I just needed sleep. He asked if I lived alone again. I lied and told him I had a roommate. He asked if it was my boyfriend and I said no. He kind of got angry again and then straight up asked if I had made my boyfriend up. I told him no and he got even angrier and again asked why he would leave me alone with another man like this. I'm usually pretty good at reading people and I got the vibe that this guy thought he was a knight compared to my boyfriend. So I lied, through my teeth. I told him I was going to break things off with my boyfriend, that we weren't even really that serious, that he was an idiot to leave me alone like this. Thank whatever fucking God was watching over me, but that did it. He calmed down and said that changed things. Oh my god. He asked if I wanted to get coffee again, and I changed my answer to not tonight. You handled that so well. I think I just would have been bawling my eyes out at that point, making everything 10 times worse, but it's like you knew exactly what to say to calm this lunatic down. He asked for my number and I gave it to him. He called to make sure it was my real number. My phone buzzed from between my seat and door and I fished it out. He grabbed my phone from me and demanded I show him my boyfriend's contact info. When I did, he deleted it and gave me a big smile. Feels good, doesn't it? I told him yes. He put his number in my phone and gave it back. I told him good night in the hopes that he would release me, and he told me he would like to talk for a little bit longer. I had to stay locked in a car with him until 4:30 in the morning. I don't even remember what we talked about. He asked if he could hold my hand at one point. Oh my god, to which I said I needed to break up with my boyfriend before I did anything with another man. He liked that answer, thankfully. When he finally let me out, the door was child locked, so it could only be opened from the outside. The windows were locked too. I walked up the wrong building steps and crouched down in the shadows of some random person's door until he drove off. I sat for another 10 minutes and then sprinted to my apartment. After crying on the floor in my kitchen for a while, I called my boyfriend and explained to him what happened. His response was the one I got from everyone when I tell the story. Report that fuck to Uber. But even though he didn't know which building in my complex I lived in, he still knew where I lived. I was terrified of seeing him again. I was terrified of calling an Uber. To this day, I refuse to Uber alone, and I make sure to have my phone in my hand every time I get into an Uber. I realized this could have been a lot worse, and maybe he was a good guy with the wrong line of thinking, and he did mean well, but I was terrified that I wasn't going to make it to my apartment that night. Please be cautious when getting an Uber. Don't be like me. I don't think that there's any way that you could say that he was like a good guy with good intentions. No. Given the whole situation, he locked you in his fucking car. He literally held you hostage, bitch. This is not a good man. It doesn't fucking matter. So Uber driver from hell, I know we've technically met before, but I'm gonna have to rain check on that coffee date forever. Let's not meet. I knew these were gonna be bad, but I don't know what the fuck I was expecting because it wasn't that. I don't typically Uber by myself. I think the only time that I have is when I'm going to the airport or coming home from the airport. If I'm out with friends, I, dear God, could never be left alone because I'm a hot mess. Or it's during the day. I really don't think I've taken many Ubers during the day by myself. Oh, well, like when I got my car checked, like I had to take my car to get it fixed, whatever, at the dealership. So I Ubered back to my apartment. It's like a 2-second Uber. But I don't think I've ever Ubered at night by myself before. So I don't have any cool stories from that, but we'll see if I can relate to any of the other ones. This one says, crazy Lyft sugar daddy. Sorry, it's not just Uber, it's also Lyft. Okay, so this happened about a year ago. I'm in a long distance relationship and I often fly to visit. I didn't have a ride arranged to come pick me up, so I usually use Lyft or Uber to get to and from the airport. Oh my god, I do relate. This particular ride started off fine. The guy was from Haiti, I believe he said, so he had a very thick accent that was often hard to understand. The beginning of the ride was just him making small talk like most drivers do. Where are you from? Are you in college? Do you have family here? And so on. We get on the freeway and there's lots of traffic. I had a layover flight and of course all the outlets were in use so I couldn't charge my phone. I'm hoping the traffic lightens up because I really need to keep in contact with the people I'm staying with. Of course, with my luck, the app crashes and says you have arrived, while we are literally in the middle of the freeway, nowhere near the house at all. I get kind of annoyed and the driver says he'll pull over at the Walmart nearby to figure out what's wrong. Apparently he had a very old phone and it wasn't giving proper directions, so I said we could use mine, but I needed to charge it. He asked me to sit up front so it was easier and I thought nothing of it, so I go up front. He tells me he'll take me the rest of the way for free without using the Lyft app. I put the address in and we're back on our way. As we're pulling out of the Walmart parking lot, he asks me how old I am. I told him I had just turned 18. And that's when things got kind of weird. He seemed to lighten up at how young I was, which was a bit odd, but whatever. He then asks me a series of questions like, why don't you live here in this state? You should move here. You could go to college here, so why don't you? I'm a doctor, and Lyft is just a side job, so I have money. This man was at least in his mid-40s. I told him I had no money to just randomly move states and start college, seeing as I had just become a legal adult. He then told me, I could take care of you. I'll buy you a little apartment and a nice car and take you out and pay for your college. I thought he was joking, so I just kind of awkwardly laughed and said that's okay, he didn't need to do that, but he just kept insisting. I was getting kind of creeped out. I didn't really want to jump to conclusions. I thought maybe he's just not sure how to hold a proper conversation since he's foreign or something. About 20 minutes later, we're 5 minutes from my destination. My phone kept doing the annoying charging, not charging thing that phones do when the wires are loose. I had this phone a while, so it did it at times, and apparently hadn't really been charging much at all, and it died. Since we were so close to the destination though, I told him I knew the rest of the way. But I would tell him to turn right and he would say okay and purposely turn left or keep going straight. Anything but what I told him to do. Now we're lost because he's ignoring everything I'm saying and playing it all off as an accident, and I'm not super familiar with the entire area. I only know a small portion of the streets. He tells me he lives nearby and I start getting really scared because I think he's gonna kidnap me or something. I let out a single tear, LOL, and I tell myself to keep it together because in the movies, whenever they see fear, they get mad or something, so I'm trying to make it seem like I'm not losing my shit. Finally, he turns back around and we're almost there again, and he starts purposely going the wrong way again. At this point, I got my phone to about 5%. He reaches over while at a red light and grabs my phone and rates himself 5 stars on Lyft and friends me on Facebook. What the fuck? He also puts his number in my phone and tells me to call him if I ever need anything and that we should go out sometime. I give a little fake smile so he doesn't know I'm about to shit myself from fear. Eventually I get so fed up that I just jump out at another red light and I tell him, thanks, but you're really scaring me, bye. I call my boyfriend on my 5% battery life and tell him where I am because I'm really scared and I need him to pick me up. My Lyft driver's shouting out the window for me to get back in the car, but there's no way in hell I was going back in there to be some man's sugar baby. I go somewhere with lots of people and I wait for my boyfriend. The whole ordeal made the ride last about 2.5 hours. No exaggeration, and it should have taken 45 minutes even with the traffic. Later I called Lyft and I told them everything. He was supposedly fired, so that's good. Anyways, random Lyft driver looking for a young sugar baby to kidnap. Let's not meet again. Someone commented on it. They're like, report that guy to the cops. I feel like reporting them to Lyft honestly is not enough. I feel like both of those people should 100% call the police on both of these people. What the fuck? I get having an Uber driver who's like uncomfortable to talk to, because I've had that too. They just like say shit that you don't care about. There was actually one time, I think it was when my little sister was visiting me in Dallas and we were driving to a club or something like that, like an 18+ club because she was under 21, and the Uber driver just kept talking about nothing. He was just a compulsive liar, just like making up all this random shit. Every time we would bring something up, it's like he could relate to it because he also did that thing. I'm pretty sure he said he had like 25 different professions. It was the most obnoxious thing. And it was a stupid conversation, but you have to go along with it to be polite. So we're just like, wow, that's crazy, so cool. And so I understand that there are times where it's uncomfortable. I feel like if he was just driving you to your location and saying all these things at the same time, but not taking all these detours, that's one thing. But the fact that it took you 2.5 hours to get to the house that you're staying at because this man is like going the wrong direction on purpose, that's terrifying. Like, these men are literally holding y'all hostage. Okay, and then this one says, I've been harassed for the past 6 months by an obsessive Uber driver. The story starts on a Thursday night in May of 2017. I work in retail, and after a long shift one night, I called an Uber home so I could avoid the dodgy people that hang around the train station. I wish I had known this simple act of calling for transportation would lead to a 6-month-long ordeal of harassment and obsession. I got into the car and chatted with the middle-aged driver, who I'll call T. He had a strong Turkish accent and seemed friendly. The conversation was normal at first, with him asking where I worked and why I was out so late and what I was studying, etc. As the conversation progressed, he began to make comments that started to make me feel uncomfortable. He started to comment on how pretty I was and how young I looked and how he missed the times when he was young and could get girls like me. He then put his hand on my knee and patted it affectionately. tried to push my hair out of my face. I was very aware that he was controlling a moving vehicle, so I just ignored him and prayed that he would get to our destination quicker. When he pulled up to our place, he noticed a car was in the driveway and immediately retracted his hand. He asked me if I wanted to go out for coffee sometime. This sounds like the first story, and I'm not prepared for it. I politely declined, so that I had a partner. He told me he was a lucky man and that I could call him anytime for a free ride. He then reached out and kissed my hand. I felt physically sick, but thanked him for the ride and got out as quickly as I could. As soon as I was inside, I told my boyfriend what happened, who encouraged me to report the driver. I was apprehensive at first, as he knew my address, but eventually reported it as I knew we were moving soon. I was reassured by Uber that the matter would be investigated and received a full refund for the trip. I didn't hear anything from T after that, and I was soon busy into my study schedule, working and moving house. I'd forgotten about him until August, where by chance I ran into him at our cafe. I was in line to get coffee when he tapped me on the shoulder. My heart sank. He gave me a big smile and tried to give me a hug, which I declined. What the fuck? Hey, I've missed your pretty face. Where have you been? I'm super busy. Sorry, I can't really talk, I sputtered. I ordered my coffee hastily and burst out the door with him hot on my trail. He started walking beside me, matching my pace. I was starting to breathe heavily and hyperventilate. Hey, so I could have bought you that coffee. We still need to go on that coffee date. I told him no, I wasn't interested and that he was making me uncomfortable. He then physically grabbed my hand as we were walking. I don't know, like all the physical stuff like makes me cringe. I would not be able to handle it. I actually sputtered out, "What the fuck are you doing?" He replied, "Oh, is that too soon?" Oh my god. Too soon? Too soon for what? We're not on a date and I'm not interested. Leave me alone. I said this loudly enough for people around me to hear, and a few people started to pay attention. Oh, are you a lesbian or something? I hate men. Oh my god. Sorry. Some men. Some. No, I'm just not interested in you. I was mortified. I'd officially lost it and I started to cry. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you, he said, and he tried to pat my back. I physically flinched and walked away from him, close to having a mental breakdown. He called up behind me, "You still work at generic shoe store, right?" I realized that I told him where I worked that night, and he had picked me up and seen me in uniform. I also told him where and what I was studying. I couldn't believe my stupidity. I alerted my store manager, who then alerted shopping center security, who assured me that they would be on the lookout. I feel like you should not be hard on yourself at all for telling him where you worked or what you were studying. I think that's normal conversation that people just have. It's very surface level conversation. You didn't know that he was gonna be crazy. Like, you had no idea. Sure enough, my first shift back after that cafe run-in, my manager told me that somebody came in asking for my phone number and when my next shift was, claiming to be my boyfriend. My manager refused to give him this information and immediately notified security, but by the time they arrived, he had already left. They showed me the grainy security footage of people coming into our store around that time, and sure enough, it was T. I was told that if he came in again to go hide out in the back and the other girls on shift would deal with him. A few months later, he tried to add me on Facebook. I immediately changed my name on Uber so I couldn't be identified anymore. I had a pretty unique name, and I blocked him. The most recent incident happened in September last year. I was tidying the window display out front of the store when I immediately felt like I was being watched. I looked to my left, and sure enough, T was there. I pretended not to know him and said, "Can I help you, sir?" "Just admiring your beauty," he said with a smile. He then gave me an envelope and walked out before I could say anything. Inside was a card that said he felt a connection, thanking me for my help today, even though I've never served him, and a voucher for the local bikini store for $100. Anyways, I realize now is the time to involve the police, and I'm kicking myself for not contacting them in the first place. I haven't heard from him since, and I'm praying that I don't ever hear from him again. And they said, do I still involve the police even though it's been a while? Yes, please call the police. Like I say with every situation, better safe than sorry. I feel like even if he hasn't been around, you don't want something to eventually happen, because these men are crazy. Okay, that's all I'm gonna read for now. If you guys have any other categories that you want me to try to dive into, let me know. I can't remember what else people recommended. Let me go look at my list. The only two I have right now are crazy ex stories and travel stories, so if you have any more, let me know. I'm gonna try to get another true crime video up for next week. I know I said I was gonna do those all the time, and then I slacked way too much because I had a trip come up, and this week has just been a lot for me. So I'll try to have one of those for next week. But other than that, I'm gonna go. I love you guys. I will see you in the next one. Bye! I am sweating my ass off because I'm trying to pretend like it's fall, but it's 100 degrees outside. I just want to wear cute sweaters. Is that too much to ask for, Arizona? Hello? Why do you hate everyone? Why do you hate us all? Okay, whatever. See ya.